Sunday. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of True Story Live. Tonight's episode, Tell Me About Yourself. Can we ever go back? And we'll get into that in just a second. Very excited about the write-up tonight. As my imaginative and industrious wife, Jen, did most of the write-up, I added a couple things and um, added my opinion to it a little bit, but for the most part, it is her baby. I love it when she writes, and uh, I'm excited for a little bit of a difference. I love Glenn's writing and how he does broadcasts or how he does write ups and things, but it's a little bit from a different perspective is always nice and refreshing. Um, Stephanie says the sound is very low, and I'm getting on my end, I'm getting a audio stream bit rate warning. No data. Can't hear anything, huh?
Try that.
Hello, testing. This is a test of the emergency True Story Live system. In the case of an actual emergency, you'd be advised of where to go for shelter, where to hide from falling debris.
Oh,
What about now, Stephanie?
Yeah, everything's set where it should be.
We can't hear you.
Oh, don't hear us. Hang on. Let's just check this. Nope, it's not that. Can't hear at all.
We can hear you now.
She said sound is very low. That means she can hear us, but it's low. Oh, we can hear now. Sorry, there's Liam. Okay, got it.
That's better. Okay. Sunday. Tonight's episode is Tell Me About Yourself. Can we ever go back? And we'll get to that in a minute. And again, this write-up was written by my babe, Jen. And so I like a little bit of a perspective switch. Glenn does a great job, as I said. But it's nice to switch it up and change it up every once in a while. So this week it's Jen from Jen's perspective for the most part. So tonight's write-up, we'll get into that as soon as we say our hellos to the rest of the panel and to the chat. And we'll get into this tonight. I hope everyone's doing well. What is it, April 18th? Yeah, so my birthday's next Friday. And I'm certainly not saying that in order to have gifts sent. Just saying that, another year. If you're a believer in the globe, then you could say that it's another revolution of the Earth spinning in space at thousands and thousands of miles per hour, chasing the sun as we hurtle through the universe at incredible speeds. So yeah, another revolution of the Earth. If you're not a globe believer, then you could say, I've been on this flat plane Earth for another year. See, I put both perspectives in there, babe.
I like that.
Not alienating anyone.
Nope.
No? Okay. How are you doing, Jen? Let's say hello to the peoples for me.
Oh, hold on one sec. Dead air.
Well, it's not dead air if you're saying
okay, here we go. No, I am doing really well. It's been a good weekend, a good Sunday, a wonderful Sunday, actually. And very glad to be here with you guys tonight and have more discussions.
Yeah,
discussions on my life.
Sometimes Sunday is our date day, and that happens to be our date day today. Is that why it's wonderful?
Partially, yes.
Okay, partially. I'll take partially. How are you doing, Glenn? Say hello to the peoples for me.
Yeah, hi all. Yep, it's all good. No worries. Not a problem. Ready to go.
Good.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeti. Thank you.
Yeti. Yeah, that's a whole nother subject.
Yeti. Oh, yeah.
Yeti. otherwise known as Bigfoot, otherwise known as Sasquatch. I'm sure there's other names for him, you know.
Sasquatch.
Sasquatch.
Oh, that's the best.
Okay. We only have a few people in the chat, but Jen, if you would do the honors and just say hello to the peoples in the chat.
Alrighty. We have Stephanie, Liam, Glenn, Celine. Hey, Celine. Annette is here. So great to see you, Annette. And that is it so far. I'll keep welcoming people as they come in.
All righty. I guess we'll just start with the write-up.
Yeah, great.
All right. The subject is tell me about yourself. Can we ever go back? Oh, you know what I can do first before I do the write-up is I can tell everyone about our Tuesday nights.
Yeah, that'd be great.
8:30 Eastern. We've done it 2 weeks in a row, and we've gotten a lovely response from several people that have come, and it's just kind of hanging out for a while and talking about whatever everyone wants to talk about. It's not recorded. So everyone's welcome. So if you'd like to join us just for an offline chat session, it lasts about 2 hours. We could end up going longer if we got into something that needed to be, we felt like we wanted to continue. But right now, it's just kind of get to know each other and things like that. So that is Tuesday night, Eastern Standard Time, 8:30 p.m. So for those of you that have interest in that, you can send me an email. I know Glenn has reached out to several people and you have the link, but last week, for those of you that came, I thought if you had already been in there, I didn't need to be there to let you in, but I'll make sure and be there right at 8:30 to make sure everyone is able to get in. So thank you for that. The email, truestorylive.crips@gmail.com. And I'll type it in here. 1 second.
I can do that for you, babe.
Okay. Jen's going to type it in the chat for you, and you can shoot me an email. Just let me know, and I'll send you the link, and you can join us.
TrueStoryLive.crips
at Gmail. Yep.
Okay.
If you're listening to playback and you'd like to be a part of that, same deal. Just send me a email to my link. If you're connected with me on Facebook, you can reach me that way, and I'll send it to you on Messenger. Either way.
All right.
There we go. Thank you. Okay. Also, that's the same email address. If you guys have suggestions of topics to discuss for the show, if you have any criticism, constructive or otherwise, basically, if you have anything, we'll take any feedback at this point.
Yes.
Like, it's the greatest show you've ever heard ever. You tell all your friends about it. You can't wait to like it and listen every Sunday, all the way to, oh my gosh, I'm unsubscribing. I hate you people. Die. That's the other end of the spectrum. I thought it was funnier than that, I
guess. Sometimes it makes it funnier when nobody laughs.
Well, yeah, for who? Who is it making funnier for?
I don't know.
It's like crickets. There's like crickets out there. What's going on?
It's like, wait, do we just get disconnected? What's up?
It's dead. Talk about dead air.
Oopsies.
All right, here we go. Today's write-up is inspired by the song Speaking a Dead Language by Joy Williams, and it's a beautiful song. I suggest everybody listen to it. The link is in the description, and part of the lyrics are, took some words and built a wall and called it love. Hit the nail on the head regarding the topic tonight. Are we speaking a dead language? Using words that describe only parts of ourselves instead of the whole of who we are? I think a living language between two people looks like putting all your cards on the table from the start. Oh, how the dating scene has changed over the years. Back in the olden days, often marriages were arranged to join families together or kingdoms to avoid war, and the decision to marry was made for you. Later, like in the 1800s, dating was observed and rarely done without chaperones, and there were many societal rules, at least in the West, as to what dating couples could or should do. In fact, they don't even didn't even call it dating, but called it courting. It's just one of the words for it. When you get a chance to look up what a bundle board was or bundling, yeah, things have changed. Throughout time, the rules or morals about dating have evolved, and along with them, so also have the expectations. Online dating apps have become the old coffee shop meetings in person. Yet, one age old issue has always surfaced, and with today's technology, it has seemed to have gotten worse. Tell me about yourself. With social media, a platform that lets you display all the positive things about yourself for all to see, but little of the negative. We get to pick and choose what we allow people to know about ourselves. People have more walls available for them to hide behind. What is everyone so scared of? Their past mistakes, their past relationships, how they look, who their family is, their job. What are the negatives of laying it all out on the table right from the get go? What could be the positives? The deceptive thing about dating is that most people put their best foot forward, and you usually do not find out the person's true face, the things they struggle with, until later in the relationship. If a person shows their best traits in the beginning and hides their more challenging parts or flaws, it comes out eventually, and when it does, what does a person do with that? Is it a bait and switch? Does it depend on if it's intentional? Or maybe it's a bait and switch either way. If you fall in love with the best foot forward representation of someone, what happens when the other parts of that person appear? It can challenge the original perception of that person and the relationship as a whole. This is a societal issue, the dog and pony show. Put out what looks good, what's shiny and attractive, and hide the rest. What's underneath all that? Where is the getting to know the real person? Can you expose all that you are in modern dating? What are the ways someone can put both feet forward in today's dating world? An online dating profile can take a lot of time to write up descriptions about yourself, but often it's mostly good stuff. It can also be 100% deceptive. The profile is only a few pieces of how a person sees themselves. It displays what kind of music they like, what they like to do on dates, their ideal person, the person they're looking for, food choices, and whether they like or dislike long walks on the beach. Is it an accurate depiction of who you are truly? If that is who you are getting to know, is that even the real person? If that is who you're getting to know, is that even the real person? Online dating can be effective way to meet someone, but eventually you must meet the person to see if you're compatible. Meet their authentic self and vice versa. The person with all the flaws, challenges, drawbacks, and boil it down to who this person is, good or bad. And what about those who shift who they are truly, who they truly are to fit in and think others would like and be attracted to? I'll try that again. And what about those who shift who they are truly, shift who they truly are and fit what they think others would like and be attracted to? Why should someone do this? Now gone are the bundle boards and the bundle bags and the chaperones. Now we have Tinder and other apps where you can meet up with a stranger and do what consenting adults want to do. However, is that helpful? Are these long lasting ways to develop a relationship? Or do people have an interest in that anymore? What do people truly want down deep down? I guess some people want a fling, but I think we can all admit that we want to be seen, heard, be connected on a deeper level. What do you guys think? Okay, so that's the end of the write up, and that was wonderfully written by my babe. And I apologize, I kind of stumbled on that one. I edited it And when I read it the first time, I didn't seem to have as much trouble with it. It's oddly worded. So when I come back to that question, I'll try to ask it in a different way. So my apologies on that. I missed that one. I think it's what it's saying. What about those who shift who they truly are to fit what they think others would like and be attracted to? That's better.
Yeah, that is better.
Okay, there you go. All right. So we'll scroll back up to the top and we'll get right into this. And by the way, guys, as usual, if you have any comments you would like to make, if you'd like them to be read uh, on the broadcast, please put them in caps. Uh, Stephanie does a really great job of that. You know, she always puts it in caps and all that, so I
Yeah.
can see them. And Liam does it too, I guess. Which, by the way, Liam was very helpful, Stephanie and Liam, because we didn't know you couldn't hear us, and so thank you for doing that, because we don't have any way to know. Because if I turn on the actual broadcast and see if it's coming through or not, then it causes a repeat. There's like a delay, and it drives me crazy. So I can't do that. It's not good. All right. So getting right to the question. By the way, this song that you picked out, Jen, was fantastic. It's right up my alley. I like chick singers. I really do.
Yeah, it's a really, really good song. And I had a really hard time finding a song for this.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm sure there are songs about dating, but we're not just talking about dating in and of itself. I think we're talking about more than that. So
Yeah.
But I listened to the song and looked at some of the lyrics, and it's an intriguing song, and it can mean a lot of different things to different people.
Yeah, exactly.
But it definitely fits the topic for tonight, in my opinion. And we'll get into that. Is dating a dead language? We're speaking a dead language. Is the whole dating thing? That's the way I think of it. Is dating a dead language now? I mean, do people? I mean, people must still go on dates, right?
Yeah, I think they do.
Yeah.
It's just so different.
Yeah.
The expectations, I think, are really different.
Yeah. Like, I guess when I could have dated, I didn't date a whole lot, but when I could have dated, you would, generally you would meet someone, maybe. Um, you would exchange phone numbers, and then you might talk on the phone a little bit.
Yeah.
You might
Email
when that was available. Even before that, you'd send paper letters. I've done that
Yeah.
a few times.
Yeah, Glenn and your mom did that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
record tapes, right? Recorded tapes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's another way. Of course, now with technology, you don't need recorded tapes. You can listen to. You can send a sound bite or a recorded sound file to someone.
I would so do the vintage tapes though. The little mini recorders with the tiny tapes. That would be fun.
Yeah. Mom did the full size cassette tapes. We had little tape players all over the place, but she would send those. There's some of those still floating around. She'd sent one to my grandmother, my mom's mom, when I was a kid, and it recorded Shannon and myself. I think I was 5 years old. It was near my 5th birthday, and our voices are on there. It's super cute. And that floated around. It used to be at my grandma's house, and when my sister and I would go there every summer, we would listen to it and just laugh at those little voices. I did get a chance to hear it later in life, and it's just so good that that's even preserved. And I'm a little bit surprised that a cassette tape would even last that long.
Yeah, not melt.
But if you don't melt it or get it off the spool,
ruin it. That's the worst.
They can last a while. Anyway, all right. So first question tonight is, are we speaking a dead language, using words that describe only parts of ourselves instead of the whole of who we are? What do you think, Jen?
Yeah, I think you kind of threw me with the dating thing being a dead language. I hadn't thought about it that way. I thought about, okay, if two people come to the table and they're not sharing most of who they are, the good, bad, and the ugly, are you actually communicating? I don't know. Is communicating have to do with truth more so than lies or partial truths?
Yeah, well, you're the way you're looking at it is way deeper than mine. I was just throwing that out there, um, but just because of how dating's changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the way that you're looking at it is more what we want to talk about. I mean, the communication, being upfront with people. I guess you could ask, have have they ever done that? Like, has that ever been a thing?
I don't know if it's been a thing, like popular, but I do believe there have been people,
Oh, sure.
unique people that have done it. Jump in with both feet. Here I am. Do you
Yeah,
like me?
yeah, right there from right from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think if it ever happened, I don't think it's super prevalent. I think that it's there's probably a few people out there that jump right in. Um, it just doesn't seem like it happens a lot in relationships. We'll get more into that in a little bit. What do you think, Glenn? Are we speaking a dead language when it comes to this stuff? And you can answer from whatever perspective, as usual, whatever perspective you have on that one.
Would you mind just clarifying a bit further, please, what you're actually asking? I'm a bit confused.
Jen, do you want to explain that from that question?
So if a living language were people coming to the table and communicating directly about who they are with each other, then is the way the majority of dating is today, with people hiding behind things and not sharing who they really are and what's really going on, is that a dead language when you think about the communication side of a relationship, which
And I
hopefully
think
there are some from the beginning.
Okay.
I think the dead language has always been there. I just think we're just addressing it from different angles today. I mean, if
Yeah.
I can go back and look back a long time. It's always been there. It's just the mechanism of delivery that's different, in my humble opinion.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I agree. It's good. Okay.
Thanks.
But can you explain what Glenn means, Jason? That's kind of gone over my head.
Sure. It's he's saying that it's always been there. The only thing that's changed is the way that we do the hiding or the coming out,
Gotcha. Okay.
the communication. So in other words, there have been, like you said, Jen, there have been people that have always come to the forefront right away, and they're communicating who they are effectively without a mask, without hiding behind things. But it hasn't been prevalent. I think Glenn would agree with that. It's always been like this. It's always been a dead language in the way that you're putting it,
Yeah.
Jen. It's been that way always. That hasn't changed. The only thing that's changed is the mechanism by which these dating things occur.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha.
I think that's what he meant.
Yeah, see,
You know,
it's a lot in the old days or the older times. It was more delayed gratification. Now everything is instantaneous, where it might have taken
Yeah.
two weeks to get a letter.
Yeah.
Everything's sped up. That's all that's different.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you'd think that communication would be better, but it's not.
Why would it
Yeah.
be better? Why? Why do you think it should be better?
Well, like the other write-up that you had done with the Audio Machine song. Gosh, I can't remember the name. The one that I had to find the lyrics for and like listen to it and write them down for you. We're all connected in so many different ways. Whereas, back in the day with letter writing, it was like either seeing somebody in person and they usually lived really far away.
Yeah.
If you didn't live in the same town, or writing
Yeah.
letters. I had a point and I totally lost it. But now with all this communication,
He
different
asked you
ways of
why.
communicating.
Yeah. He asked you why you thought it was better.
Yeah.
You said it should be better. I think that's what you're.
Yeah. You would think that with so many ways to connect, we'd be more connected. But it seems to
Yes.
be the opposite.
Yes. One of the things Glenn mentioned was, delayed gratification. I know that sending letters was, it was fun having the anticipation of receiving something back and checking the mailbox and,
Yep.
going out there. Oh, it's not here. Oh, it'll probably be here tomorrow. Waiting to receive correspondence from someone that you care about. I think you enjoyed it more. Like I remember opening up paper mail and feeling a feeling of excitement in my chest. Now, with the exception of Jen, I don't feel that from people anymore in an email. We write on paper to each other. And in fact, Jen started a journal and we write back and forth. I could write more often, that's for sure, in that thing. But I do write a lot of letters, though, on little not index cards, stationary. There's probably hundreds of them since we moved here. And I enjoy doing it. And my handwriting has gotten better again. And it makes me feel attached to the old ways a little bit. But I would say that Jen and I came right to the table from the beginning. I feel like that's the way we started the relationship. So I guess to me, it wouldn't matter how we did it, whether it was emails or whether it was paper mail or written down or text messages or messenger. It's always going to be it's always going to work the way it's supposed to work, in my opinion.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Jen? Do you think that's true?
I do. I just don't think, I think it's more rare. And I get why.
Yeah. And we're going to get into that.
Yeah.
So just really quickly, so in this write-up, I'm the one that added the stuff about the bundling and the bundle board. So really, when you get a chance, look it up and see this thing. I mean, how crazy this was. So if two people that were unwed or they were engaged even, they would allow them to sleep in the same bed at certain points, but there had to be, if they were going to allow that, then there was either a bundle board or bundling. A bundle board is a piece of wood, generally, that they would put in the bed that would separate the two people, kind of like a office divider, like a wall between the two people.
A partition.
And you weren't
A bed separating apparatus.
right. Exactly. Now, if it was on TV originally, then it would be the married couple slept in two separate beds. And again, that's a representation of the morals of the society at that time, at least the morals that were being observed by the majority of people. I mean, last week someone made the point to me and says, well, they were having, I think they said it in the chat, they were having babies. They've always been having babies out of wedlock, so there always have been people that haven't observed the societal morals of the time. And point well taken. There always has been that, but at least on the face of it, at different times, society has at least pretended to embrace more staunch rules and morals. And this was during this time, the 1800s, and I don't know when it ended, when they stopped using them. But the other thing bundling is they would actually put someone in like a potato sack or some kind of cloth and put all their arms and legs in, nothing but their neck sticking out, and then sew it up. And it used to be a ceremony when they were planning this, and women would get together and they would have a bundling session, kind of like they're doing a quilt, except it's sewing up a sack to put the dude in.
So it's the dude, not the lady.
I'm not saying it was never the lady. I just know that generally it was the man, and sometimes there was like a getting together of the women to help with this bundling apparatus. And so in order to get out of it, you would have to break the seal, like the sewing on the bag. So I've got several questions about this. Like one of the questions is, what if a man has to go to the outhouse in the middle of the night? what do you do then? I mean, do they
Yeah.
put a hole in it somewhere so you could do that? But then doesn't that right? Doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose? I mean,
No. Oh my
was that
goodness.
wrong? Should I not have
It's a rated G show, buddy. No, just kidding.
It's a rated G show. Yeah, so have fun with this. When you get a chance, look up those two things, bundle board and bundling, and you'll see my example, how much things have changed. All right, so the next part, tell me about yourself with social media platform that lets you display all the positive things about yourself for all to see, but little of the negative. We get to pick and choose what we allow people to know about ourselves. People have more walls available for them to hide behind. So the question is, what is everyone so scared of? Their past mistakes, their past relationships, how they look, who their family is, their job. What are the negatives of laying it all out on the table right from the get-go? What could be the positives? All right, we'll start with the first one. What is everyone so scared of? Their past mistakes. Are people scared of their past mistakes, Jen? What do you think?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'd be a little concerned if people weren't.
Sure. Sure.
Sociopath, no.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I'm not
Yeah.
all concerned that I used to stalk people.
Yeah. Yeah, past mistakes. I think that's probably on anybody's mind that's, seeking to connect with somebody else.
Oh, sure,
Because
sure.
you never know how people are going to respond. Because everybody might respond differently to certain things,
Mhm.
whether
Yeah.
they've been through it themselves or have more empathy than somebody else.
hmm So with you, and this isn't before I say anything, this is not me bragging about what a great person I am. But I brought all my past mistakes, everything I could think of. I brought it right to the table and said, "This is what I've done. These are the things that could sour you on me, or potentially, maybe not." And told Jen right away, because I noticed this thing not just in social media, but just in dating online. I noticed this thing before, where you just share the best parts. Nobody puts in, at least I've never seen it on an online profile. Nobody says, I got 3 DUIs and I don't have a license anymore and I don't have a job, but I love Nickelback and I love Chinese food and line dancing. Come get to know me. Nobody says that. And very few people will admit that they like Nickelback. Just saying. Crickets again. Nobody's getting my jokes.
I have a delayed reaction
Nobody's
tonight.
getting it.
Oh
Okay.
no.
It's why I picked Nickelback, because Nickelback apparently is the worst, according to polls, is the worst group of all time. But people seem that it's still nostalgic. I've heard people talk
Yeah,
about this.
it is. It really is
So
nostalgic.
people are like they're not admitting, they say, "Oh, I hate Nickelback," but then when the song comes on from the '90s or whatever, people are singing along with it. That there are songs like that. Anyway, so you can be whoever you want on these dating apps and social media, and you don't have to share your past mistakes. What do you think, Glenn? You think people are afraid of sharing their past mistakes?
I think a lot of this is age dependent. I think about, okay, take a 20-year-old for it. A lot of 20-year-olds don't even know who they are yet.
Right.
They haven't really established their identity. So therefore, I would be thinking they would be more reluctant to just say, oh, well, here I am, yada, yada, yada. No, they're going to be, I would perceive that a 20-year-old is more likely to think, what am I going to lose here if I spill all the beans up front? Whereas you go on, and as you get more experience, you get to the point where you say, look, I don't want to waste my time here. I'm just going to declare
Yes.
I'm going to declare who I am, and I don't care if you don't like it. It's a
Yes.
huge difference between 20 and 40 and 50, 60,
Yes.
whatever. Huge
Yeah.
difference.
Yes.
There you go. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, I completely agree. So when I shared this stuff with Jen, that's exactly what Glenn is saying. That's exactly the reason, honestly. What
Yeah.
it comes down to, well, there were several reasons. One, not in any special order, but one of the reasons is what Glenn's saying. I didn't want to waste my own time or Jen's time. So I knew these things were going to come out, and sure enough, it's interesting when I brought Jen over to meet my sister, and my sister brought some of this stuff up in
Yeah.
public, and I remember Jen reacted to that. Well, Jen, you could talk about talk about how you felt about that, and I'll go back to my point after.
Yeah. Are you okay if I share what it was?
I am
Okay.
okay.
So Jason had shared with me from the get-go pretty soon after we started talking about him getting a DUI
Hmm.
when he was younger.
Yeah,
Very unfortunate situation. He learned a lot from it,
I
but it
did.
was embarrassing, and
Yeah,
his family held it over him for a while. And so I had known about this for months and months and
yeah,
months. And when I came to South Carolina to visit with his sister and brother-in-law, we were playing a board game, I think,
yeah,
and she brought it up. Like she
yeah.
made some comment to him in front of me, in front of, I don't know if one of the kids were there, but
Yeah, the kids were there.
I,
Finn and Autumn were there,
yeah.
I believe.
So I was a little shocked,
Yeah,
like felt slapped in the face that she would bring something up like that
yeah,
without even knowing if he had shared it with me.
right.
Because if that was the first time I had heard that, that could have really uh it really would have
Yeah,
caused some issues, because I'd
yeah,
be wondering, well, why didn't he tell me?
yeah.
And if he's hiding that and hasn't told me when we've been,
Yes,
dating for months on end, what else is he not telling me?
that's it.
So I was a little upset with the sister for
Yeah,
doing that.
yeah,
And she had had a couple drinks, I think.
that's true. She had a
Doesn't
couple.
excuse it.
No, it doesn't.
But
She had a couple cocktails that night for
yeah.
sure. Yeah,
So yeah, I just was like, what?
yeah. So
Ouch.
thank you for sharing that, Jen. So the reason I asked Jen to share that is because if I hadn't told her that, not only would it have been more embarrassing to me, but like Jen said, if he hasn't told me that, what else is he not telling me? So that's another reason why I disclosed all this information. Other than I just didn't want to waste anyone's time, and if it was going to be something that she decided she didn't want to have any part of, some past mistake that I made, then it wasn't going to work because I've done plenty of stuff that I'm not proud of. Plenty. Um,
Yeah.
it's been a long time. I mean, this DUI happened in 2002, and I haven't had one. I haven't had a repeat of that. Excuse me, a lot of people that do that sort of thing, they keep doing it. Now that wasn't the case with me. I did learn a lot of things from it. I learned I don't like this. I did it to myself. It's nobody else's fault but mine. Didn't blame anybody else. I took responsibility for it. I went to the alcohol classes. My license was suspended for 16 months roughly, and it caused a lot of problems. I had to get rides to work. Eventually I worked for a grading company, and I drove one of those big earth movers. And it was a cush job. I sat in a cab all day and just drove this big truck around in the dirt and dropped off loads of good soil and bad soil at different places. And it was fun. I listened to radio all day and drove around. And I lost that job because I couldn't get back and forth to work because it was out of state. So I did that to myself. So yeah, I didn't want to repeat that. Some people don't learn their lesson. They go through the same thing,
Hmm.
and their attitude is, I've got to have, as Sam Kennison said back in his comedy routine, it's got to have a way to get the car back to the house. So
Yep.
what are you going to do? Of course, now there's no reason to drive drunk. Not that there ever has been a reason, but you have Uber, and it's cheap.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So there's no reason for you to drive drunk. No reason. But anyway, that's not the point. So the point is, there were plenty of reasons to share. I shared, and then so this was not a time bomb waiting to go off. I didn't step on a claymore of mine that someone else kind of opened up on me. In this case, my sister. So there are plenty of reasons to disclose this. I liked Glenn's answer. I would not have done that in my 20s. Not that I'm not an honest person, but just nobody thinks of doing that at that age. Nobody thinks, okay, I need to disclose all the bad stuff. No, I did the same thing that I'm accusing other people of doing in the dating apps, of just sharing their best stuff. Um, I just can't think of anyone perusing the profiles in one of the dating apps, and someone's being open and honest about their mistakes or their flaws or their hangups, and someone going, "Oh, that's refreshing that they're sharing all that." No,
Yeah.
they've got a certain expectation in their mind of what they're looking for, and that doesn't meet up to most people. Now, I would say that if someone had the guts to share some of their mistakes, the right person might see that and might think it is refreshing. They actually might be attracted to that, but I think it's very rare. That's my point.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one is their past relationships, falling into the same category of what is everyone scared of. So the first one's past mistakes. The second one is past relationships. And I'll go first. I didn't have too many relationships, so this wouldn't really apply to me. I've talked at length about my divorce with Jen, and mainly because I think that there's always something to learn out of mistakes. So for me, a divorce was something I can learn from. There was nothing I could do to prevent it. So therefore, I can only use it as a signpost. That's all the past is to me. It's something to look back at and see mistakes that were made and move forward. And maybe you don't make the same mistakes again the second time around. Fortunately for me, my choice was also better the second time around. So I
Yeah.
don't have to worry about repeating the same stuff again because it's a completely different scenario altogether. But that being uh, 12 years, let's see, 2010, yeah, 11, 12 years ago, I was not the same person that I am now. Sure, a lot of the qualities are similar, but I am way more mature than I was, and it's just different. It's just different. So for me, past relationships wouldn't bother me to disclose that or share that in any way. What about you, Jen?
Yeah, I can see why people would be afraid to share their past relationships. I
Yeah.
added that part on there. I know for me, I don't mind sharing with the group,
Right.
but I've been a believer for a really long time, and I grew up in church, and I did not wait until my first marriage to be intimate with a guy.
Right. Right.
Um, so and then I married who I thought was a Christian at the time. But even then, I was very regretful, that I had to share with him that I had been intimate before,
Yeah.
getting married. Now he had too,
Yeah.
so uh, but still, it's just that's a doozy for some people. Some people it's not a big deal, but some
Yeah.
people it is. Um, I think probably not that this has happened to me, but I can imagine having to share um, being broken up with, if you're being
Mhm.
honest,
Yeah.
and sharing, if you have any abandonment issues or hurts in regard to that. Now that's a person that's being really open and honest, but when it comes to
Sure.
past relationships, I can see how that would be scary because then you may have the person that you're trying to be with or just, recently dating. They may think, "Oh
Yeah.
gosh, why did this person break up with them?" And
Sure.
they're looking for stuff. Um, so,
Sure.
but I know with you, I definitely wasn't. I didn't have any issues with sharing past relationship stuff.
Right.
You're very easy to talk to.
Oh, thank you.
So,
Yeah, your mom recently said that to me too. Said I was very easy
yeah,
to talk to. She said, and I quote, "Jen's right. You are easy to talk to." So
yeah.
something that you said, and
Haha, I'm right.
you are right. I want to address something in the chat real quick, and this is more of a fun thing than it is bad. But Janet put in some lyrics from uh, "We Got Married in a Fever, Hotter Than a Pepper
Sprout.
Sprout." Yeah, and then she says that is a song you are too young to recall. I'm not sure who you're addressing, Jana, but I am not too young to recall Johnny Cash and his wife, June Carter Cash, singing that. I actually have that on one of my playlists. I'm a huge Johnny Cash fan.
Yes.
I'm not much into what I would consider modern country, but Johnny Cash was an artist all to his own, very distinctive. Uh, his voice is recognizable on all his music. So I'm just saying, I'm sure you're right about a lot of things, but on that one, Janet, I know exactly the one you're talking about. So also, before we move forward, I saw something that Stephanie said. One of the things she said was, "But when you are upfront and open about everything, others have that ammo to use against you." I
Yeah.
understand. Yeah, I'll go ahead, Jen. You want to comment on that?
Oh no, you finish.
You're absolutely right, Stephanie, and I understand why you have that perspective, especially with everything that you've been through personally. And I won't go into that, but I'm sure that you're correct. Um, but a good person, an honest person, would absolutely not use that as ammo against you.
Yeah.
But I do know that people do that. So your point is valid. I completely
Yes.
agree with why you would make that point. What do you think of that, Jen, before we
I was
move
going to
forward?
say this is why you need to know the red flags that we talked about last
Right,
week.
right. Hmm.
Because there are trustworthy people out there. I think more few and far between.
Yeah,
But ooh, actually, I'll just plug a book real quick. There's a book called Safe People, and it's by Dr. Henry Cloud,
yeah,
Cloud. Very, very good book. And it talks a little bit about, you know, red flags, what to look for with unsafe people, and what to look for with safe people.
right,
It was a very, very good book for me, especially because just growing up naive and projecting in a sense, thinking that everyone had the intentions I had, and my intentions have always been good and
right.
pure and just like,
Mhm.
I just assumed everybody else was coming from that same perspective.
Yeah,
And I found out the hard way that is not the truth. So
yeah,
I completely understand, Stephanie, why you mentioned that, and that's the downside of this. Um, Not that it's a downer. I think it's always really good to be upfront and honest about people. I
yeah,
mean, in front of people, not about people, but upfront and honest with people.
sure.
But there is a risk.
Yeah,
There's a definite risk. But I would rather somebody use ammo against me
yeah,
than to not be real. And you don't have to share all the skeletons in your closet per se.
yeah.
So
That's a good point. Thanks for sharing that, Jen, and thanks for your comment, Stephanie. Stephanie also says most scared of all the above. So referring to the things in the description, we haven't gotten all of them yet, but yeah, I would agree that most would be um, concerned about all that. We'll get back to that in a moment. Celine says it's hard to date in the church environment because if you're a young person and don't meet the certain criteria of morals, they shoot you down and disregard you and treat you less than.
that's horrible.
Yeah. Um,
But I've seen it.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like hoop jumping.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. And there are some churches that have a certain mean girl mentality. Honestly, they do.
Yeah.
They
But I
expect
think
you to.
she's talking about guys, though. Guys have a certain criteria and moral, and they shoot you down and disregard you and treat you less than.
Oh, maybe she is, but I know guys in the church too that are looking for someone that on the outside appears to be going by morals, but in the back seat of a car, they're looking for someone that is willing to be pliable.
Yeah.
So I don't see that as a real face though, the whole
Yeah.
morals and values thing. At least not to what I've seen.
Yeah. When you talk about, this is sort of a side note, it's not in the write up, but when you think about like what Celine is mentioning here, having a certain criteria, if you're going out in the dating world and you've got this like cookie cutter mold that you want someone to fit into, I wonder what's on the back end of that, why somebody would be so stringent about criteria when everyone knows people are different, people's experiences are different, people's personalities are different,
Yeah.
people's journeys are different, it just makes me wonder. I wonder if people hold to that such a strict criteria because they don't I don't know, is it a society thing or is it like they don't want to get hurt? What is that?
Well, I think it's both of those things. It's a societal thing for sure. Um, being afraid of getting hurt, that's a huge thing. I mean, I've experienced some of that. Being afraid to be hurt, being afraid to be abandoned or broken up with, whatever term you want to use for it. Sure, sure. I think that's the two things at least that you mentioned are part of it.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so the next part of this is after their past relationships, how they look. Let's do two at the same time, Jen. How they
Okay.
look and who their family is. How they
Hmm.
look and who their family is. So, well, I'll go first.
Okay.
How they look, that part of it. I'm sure you guys have heard of catfishing. Now, catfishing can be a completely different thing, but that's basically someone that makes up a fake profile, and it could may not even be a man. It might be a woman posing as a man, or vice versa. That's a little bit of a different thing, but it's still hiding who the real person is, and it's not good. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people do it just for fun, but a lot of people, there's a whole show, Catfish, um, used to be on. I don't think it's on anymore, but it was on for several seasons. And this guy it had happened to him, so he decided to do a docu video on this topic, and he would investigate these catfishing things and find the person and ask them, "Why did you do this?" So that's a very interesting thing. I think they're available on YouTube if anyone wants to check those out. But a lot of people hide how they look. Uh, a lot of people will post a younger picture. I did
Hmm.
that once. It wasn't just younger; it was at a time when my weight wasn't as heavy, and so I was dishonest. I believe. I mean, it is me, but it wasn't me in the present at that time. It was me from the past.
Yeah.
So it's saying to someone, Here's how I could look," but the reality is that I'm 60, 70 pounds heavier than the picture that I sent.
Yeah.
So I've experienced that. Now, honestly, with me, that's the only thing that I was ever concerned with was the way that I looked. But it's still not being honest. It's still not being upfront. And then there are other people that go the opposite direction. People that aren't that physically attractive, in my opinion, that show a picture of them wearing a halter top, and they shouldn't be wearing a halter top. They take it to the extreme in the other end. But
Uh,
it is certainly, or that they have a huge butt and they wear pants that are super super skin tight, and they seem to be fine with it. I've never understood that, but that's the other end of it. So, but there are people who are concerned about their looks,
mhm.
and then who their family is. I'm not ashamed of my family, but I'm sure there are people out there whose families are embarrassing them. And when it gets to Jen, she can tell a story about that if she feels up to it. But it definitely plays a factor. All right, so Jen, those two, how they look and who their family is.
I'll start with who their family is. This isn't terrible, but I'll just share it because it's funny.
It is funny.
My dad, I don't know if you're thinking of the same one, but my dad is a robe guy. He wears a robe, and
That's already funny.
unfortunately, he doesn't cinch it up tight. And for the longest time, as long far back as I can remember, my dad would just go outside in the front lawn, get the newspaper, check the mail, just with his robe on and
Yep.
underwear,
Yep.
boxers,
Yeah.
and he's got a little bit of a belly on him, and it embarrasses the crap out of my mom. It doesn't seem to bother him at all, and I kind of commend him. He's just like, here I am. But it was an issue with friends coming over. It's like, Dad. Um, so yeah, that's probably more of a milder form of humiliation compared to some people. I've heard other horror stories when it comes to family. But it makes me think of I watch these shows on YouTube like That Chapter and a couple other like crime, what would you call that, Jason? Like
True crime.
true crime. There you go.
Yeah.
And I think about these kids whose parents are serial killers. And I've seen a couple of interviews, of these kids sharing their journey after their parent was caught, killing a bunch of people, and how they've been. I can imagine how hard that would be to have the same name, or for people that in your town to know you and know it was your dad or mom that killed a bunch of people. Like,
Yeah.
how horrible is that? So that when I think of, your family and being afraid of people finding out about your family, I think of that. I'm like, oh geez, that's got to be
Yeah.
horrible. What was the first one? Oh, looks. Like how you look. Yeah, the other thing that I understand it to a degree, but it's very concerning and sad is the filters on all of these cameras now with your
Yeah.
camera phones.
Yes.
It's a little misleading. I can
Yep.
understand why people use it. They're, insecure, and
Right.
maybe they've got some blemishes, or they
Yeah.
just really and truly, these filters make people look beautiful.
Yep.
And so that can be very misleading, and hiding behind that, hiding behind those
Yeah.
filters. So yeah, that's
That was
just
a
an example I'll share.
Yeah, that's a common thing though. You even hear it in TVs and movies and stuff when people go on a blind date or they met online or whatever, and they get there and there's a moment where they look at each other and they say, "Well, you look like your profile." It is a common thing.
Yeah.
So this goes on a lot where somehow the picture used in the profile either isn't them or it's a very flattering picture. And I understand that people take a picture. My sister always would get on me about that. She said, "No, let me take the picture of you because it's not flattering. The way you're taking a picture, you're bending your neck down and you're taking a picture."
You do that. You do that with Marco Polos too.
Yeah,
I'm like, lift the camera up.
yeah. And I did that with Jen. I was sending her Marco Polo. I wasn't thinking about where I was holding the phone. Oh,
I'm
it's
like,
shooting
here
up
he
from the
is,
bottom. There, you know.
Mr. Jason Cripps.
Yeah, but so is it wrong to take a more flattering picture of yourself? I'm not saying that it is, but what Jen's talking about, doing the filters and stuff, I think that's a little deceptive. I really do. Like Jen said, I understand people wanting to do that. Um, if they're a little nervous and stuff. But the goal would be, in my opinion, is to be open and honest and just, gosh, show a picture of what you look like. And if someone accepts you for that, great. If they don't accept you, then they may not be the type of person you want to be with if they're just basing it on looks.
Yeah.
Now, I understand sometimes you see a person's picture and you're just not physically attracted to them. That's fine. People are attracted to different things. So it's not a bad thing if you put your picture up there and someone doesn't like it. But I do believe the term, there's someone for everybody. There's someone out there that will see you beyond what you look like. And despite of what you look like, they'll see you. That does happen. Celine says someone could have their profile be a picture of them 10 years ago. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Um, uh, Stephanie says that was the worst part of me. I was an open book. I trusted too easily and found out the painfully hard way to keep my life to myself. That's unfortunate, Stephanie. I think a lot of it is deciding to be open with the right person. And I'm not saying it's easy to determine that, but once you're happy with who you are, it doesn't matter what someone does with that information. I'm just saying, and I know you're working on that. So I believe that you will get to the point where being an open book is part of who you are as a person. You're an open book, and it won't be as painful to share that with someone else. If they take advantage of that, you're being open, then that reveals who they are, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Uh,
But I could understand her not wanting
yeah,
that to happen.
absolutely. And before I pass along to Glenn, the other thing I was going to mention, Jen, was your ex, who we call lovingly fake name, because he didn't want to have his real name for many reasons. And I won't go into the reasons, but the one thing I will mention is because his family was embarrassing to him. He might have been the worst part of his family. I don't know, but he wanted to change his name and he did. So we call him fake name. I don't even call him by his name because we share our first name. Well, I think it's his middle name, right?
Yeah, it's his middle
It's
name,
his middle name
but it's what he goes
is
by.
what he goes by. So, yeah, I don't want to, and I don't like calling people my name either.
Yeah.
Happens at work sometimes when I get a Jason, and I make it fun. But anyway, all right, Glenn, what do you think? Those two questions together, if you don't mind. Uh, People scared of how they look or who their family is.
Yeah, it's obviously relevant to some people. I don't. Oh, it's once again, you're much more likely when you're young. Now, who cares? I know my
Yeah.
answers are boring, but I'm just going to keep saying the same thing.
No, it's your perspective.
I don't care. I don't need
Glenn's
to waste
Glenn's
my
got it in the
energy.
bag.
Well,
It's
there's a
yeah,
better question coming up for you, Glenn.
but
So,
one thing, it's amazing how the most attractive woman in the world, if she opens her mouth and she's brain dead, doesn't look as attractive anymore. Oh, I hope that's not too sexist, but I'm saying someone with intelligence and a brain is really
yeah,
attractive. That's what I mean.
Yes, it really is.
that's not sexist.
Incredibly.
That's just honest.
Yeah. Guy or
That's
girl.
yeah. Okay, Glenn, you can
Oh,
what?
I'll let him answer the other part before I say
Uh,
anything.
I'm gonna go with Glenn. You can answer this next one, and then we're gonna go to a bigger one, which is at the bottom of all this.
Oh, were you going to a next question?
I was, yeah,
Let me say this real quick. I was going to read
sure,
this
yeah,
one from Celine. She said, Jen, sometimes it doesn't even start in dating profiles with a hello. Sometimes people just send pornographic pictures of themselves. This, this, it disgusts me, but it fascinates me at the same time.
right.
Not in that way. Just in why? Like, what is, I just, again, this isn't part of the write up, but it is an interesting side topic. Why do people think this works?
Mhm.
Why do they think this is a good thing? What are they expecting? Like, I just, like a
Right.
sociology experiment, I'm like, why? And maybe it's because the majority, well, I don't want to say the majority, maybe it's because there are women who respond to that.
Yeah.
They think it's maybe a compliment that a guy sends a picture of his bathing suit area. Can you tell I work with kids?
Yeah.
um,
This
but
is
I
your no
just,
touch area.
I know, I just don't understand. Um, yeah, I don't know if you guys want to comment, but I just like, what? I get it. I get this is where the world's gone kind of a thing, but I still don't get it. Do you get it?
Uh, I get part of it. I know that, and I don't know this from experience, having it had happened to me, but flashers who flashers or people that expose themselves,
Ah,
I think
yeah,
that they want to get. Sometimes they want to get a shocked reaction out of someone, and they get off on that.
yeah,
And sometimes they think they're going to get appreciation, like they're going to expose themselves, and the person's going to go, "Oh, wow, thanks for showing that to me." I mean, this is a psychological uh, malady.
yeah,
They think that it's a good thing that that's what they're doing.
hmm,
So, as far as or as far as Celine's comment, no, I don't know why they do that, but I know it happens.
yeah,
People sending text messages, and it's part of the process. Like instead of you writing letters back and forth, and then going to phone calls, and then going to dates, and then from dates, going to you might kiss or something like that. Instead of that, you text message for a while, and then you send pictures, naked pictures of each other to each other.
yeah.
I mean,
It
it's
seems to have gotten worse though. Like I'm part of a couple of support groups for narcissistic abuse, and seen many times where these people have these, and it's mostly women, have these experiences where some guy will message them on Facebook even, and they're like, "Hey, looking good," and if you respond, they're like, "Bashang, dick pic."
yeah.
It's just like, what in the world?
But
Did you take my hi as like this invitation? I don't
yeah,
what?
yeah,
Anyway, but I do like your point about the whole I think they get something from it, the shock value.
yeah. Oh yeah, I think they do.
Good
It's
point.
weird. Like
Yeah.
I'm definitely not saying it's a good thing or a healthy thing for sure, but it happens. Um,
And that
uh,
was it. We can move on. I just was wanted to chat about that for a sec.
yeah, sure. I got you. Just real quick, Liam says, I've always hated the way I look, but I have enough respect for people not to catfish them. I think it's vile that people use fake profiles to hide their true selves. It happened to me once and never again. Yeah, you're making a good point, Liam. I think it is. I mean, your word is a good one, vile. I think it can be vile depending how far you take it. I mean, it's one thing to create a fake profile if you're not trying to fool anyone. It might be a joke. You might do it to a friend and message them and pretend like you're, coming on to them or something. And then, that was me. And then, like, I see where there would be some humor in it if it's someone that you know. But to perfect strangers pretending like you're someone that you're not, I don't see any. I don't see any upside to that. I
Yeah,
really don't.
that's the word I was going to use. Upside.
Yeah. All right, Glenn. The last one of this particular grouping is before we get to the bigger question. Your job, and I'm sure your answer. So this could be short for you, and then we'll move on to the next one. But
Glenn doesn't care. My turn.
he doesn't care. Okay.
I'm just kidding. Go ahead, Glenn.
I don't care. Your turn, Jen.
Okay. He doesn't care. Go ahead, Jen.
Okay.
What about the job, and then we'll get to this next one.
Yeah, I this is an area that when it comes to other people, I'm like, I really don't care what you do.
Right.
But on the flip side, I think I have been more sensitive and anxious and self-conscious about what people's opinions will be on what I do
Right.
job-wise,
Interesting.
which is weird.
Yeah.
When I used to work on houses with my ex, I used to think people would look at me weird because I was a woman working on houses.
Yeah.
But I was in painter's clothes a lot, going to Home Depot and Lowe's and, um, kind of, I liked being clean and pretty,
Yeah.
but at this job, I couldn't do that. I'm a messy painter. So sometimes that was sort of like, what are people going to think? But, in getting to know people, I used to have an issue with comparing myself to people
Yeah.
and just feeling lower than anybody I met, pretty much. That was an issue.
Sure.
So I could see how somebody else could be in that position of just being a little anxious about their job, and what they're doing. It might not
Yeah.
be their dream job or something that's super fabulous or flashy. But like Glenn mentioned, it's great when you can get to a place where you really don't care. You have a
Yeah.
job, you're working hard, you're making money, paying the bills.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that pushes this particular self-consciousness is usually when you meet people, what is the first thing they ask you?
What do you do?
What do you do? And you and I have chatted about this, how annoying that is, that is the question almost like that defines you. That's the first thing you want to know about somebody other than their
Yeah.
name. It's strange.
Yeah. I agree.
So
Look, as far as a job, you have to have a job. Most people
Mhm.
have to, unless you are from a wealthy family and you have an inheritance and you don't never ever need to work. There's very few people though that fit in that category. I'm assuming, but you have to work. But is it who you are? Is the job that you do that you have to pay your bills with? Does that define you? I'd say no, that it doesn't define you.
For some people it does though,
Well, for a lot
right?
of people, it does. For a lot of people, it does, because otherwise, that wouldn't be the question that you ask. You'd ask,
Mhm.
like, what kind of music do you like? Instead of saying, what do you do? Like, what kind of music do you like? Are you a foodie? What do you like to do in your spare time? I mean, there are plenty of other ways to get to know a part of someone other than just what they do. A lot of times, your job is just your job. It doesn't define who you are, in my opinion. So, for what it's worth, that is. Okay, so these next two are probably better suited for Glenn. You have hopefully more of a long answer on these and maybe care a little bit about these ones. So, with all these, what are the negatives of laying it all out on the table right from the get go? What are the negatives? And then the next question is, what could be the positive? So why don't we just do both at the same time? Do the
Sure.
neg do the negatives and then the positives, Jen. What are the negatives of laying it out all on the table right from the get-go, and what could be the positives?
You said for me to go?
Yeah.
Okay. I just was thinking when you were reading, I was thinking, okay, a negative could be that someone doesn't like you and they leave.
Yeah.
And I know I have had past. I know there's a lot of people, but I personally have had issues with fear of rejection and abandonment, and it probably hasn't been super super bad, but not mild, somewhere in between. And so the thought of somebody not liking you when you are upfront and honest and put all the cards on the table, it's scary to me. But it also can flip into the positive because if I'm bringing myself, my whole self to the table, my authentic self to the table, and somebody doesn't like it and walks away, that is actually a positive thing. Now, I used to not think that. I do now. But I used to think that it was because something was wrong with me, and that I had done something wrong.
Right.
And it was a reflection on me that I'm not worthy of having of being someone's friend or being friend worthy or even relationship wise, girlfriend material.
Yeah.
So it totally beat up my self-esteem. Um, so that was scary. But
Yeah, sure.
now I'm more erring on the side of Glenn, where it's just I'm sure it hurts still a little bit because there's this old part of me that just used to want everyone to like me, and it was almost painful, like physically painful, if I found out somebody didn't. I wanted to know why. I wanted to change their mind. I wanted to, it's just like this obsessive thing. But now it's like, with me loving who I am and embracing myself, it's like, you know what? There are going to be people out there that don't like me, and that's fine. Like, more power to you. Go away.
Yeah.
I'm fine. It's not a reflection of me anymore. So
Yeah.
that's what I'll say about that.
I'll add to that. I think it's natural to want people to like you, to be liked, to want to be
Yeah.
liked. And this happened to me when I went to Michigan to do my senior year. I have talked about this before that I worked in the attendance office, and so I used to go pick up the attendance sheets, the tardy sheets at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day. And I got a chance to see all the classrooms on the campus. So people kind of know who I was, or at least knew that I worked in the attendance office. Some people know me by name. And I would do little hijinks and say funny things, and most people enjoyed that. But I found out there was a couple people that didn't like me. And honestly, when I saw who it was that didn't like me, I didn't really care that they didn't like me. They were not popular people. They weren't people that were very friendly or kind or wonderful. So it didn't bother me. But I still wanted to know, why don't you like me? Right?
Your curiosity.
Yeah. Why don't you like me? I asked them point blank. I said, I heard you don't like me. Why? And they didn't know. They didn't want to answer because I guess that they're not used to someone walking up to them and saying, "Why don't you like me?"
Yeah.
So, did you answer the positives, babe?
I did. I kind of
Okay,
flipped it. I said, okay, the old me would
gotcha.
have seen something as a
Yeah.
negative, but then
Okay.
now it's positive. I don't know if you want to wait till we all answer to read Stephanie's question.
I can read it. Doesn't it depend on the person you are being authentic to as to whether it is a positive or negative experience? Does it depend on the person you are being authentic to as to whether it is a positive or negative experience? Yeah, great. Yeah, yes, it does matter. But I think you have to be authentic regardless of what someone else does. I think you can be more choosy about who you share that with, but yes, it can be positive or negative based on who the other person is. But ultimately, if you're always being authentic, regardless of, I mean, right down the line, that's always going to
Yeah.
be the best thing. So for me, my answer is kind of similar. to Jen's, I would say that I can't think of any negative. I really can't. In the past, I would have agreed with Jen. I would have said, and also with Stephanie, I would agree that there are some people out there that if you share, if you lay everything out on the table from the get go, that's gonna be a no, a hard pass on their part. But then it ends up being a positive because, again, that's not a person I want to associate with. If they're going to judge me by something I've done in the past, especially if I bring it out on the table, just for instance, if I'd shared all that stuff with Jen and she was like hard pass, I mean, I wouldn't have been mad at her, but there would have been a part of me that thought, oh, well, she's not the right person for me. Because the right person, which ended up being Jen, the right person is going to forgive me for the things I've done in the past and try to look at who I am now in the present. Because maybe I've matured. Maybe I've learned from my past mistakes,
Mhm.
which is definitely the case.
And it makes you who you are today.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So I don't see any negatives. I only see positive. What could be some of the positives? Starting the relationship right from the get go on an even keel, open, honest, authentic, right from the start. No hidden stuff. If you start out like that, you never want to have anything come in between that, the way that you've started it. So the lying, potential for lying is right out the window. The potential for being secretive. Why be secretive? If you've shared everything right from the get go, what point would there be to being secretive or hiding things from your significant other?
Mhm.
There wouldn't be any. So there's plenty of positives. They're all about having a better relationship, in my opinion. What do you think, Len? This is a better one, hopefully, for you. What are the negatives of laying it all out on the table right from the get go? What could be the positives?
Okay, I want to answer Stephanie's uh, paragraph first.
Yeah.
I think that it's always okay. Doesn't it depend on the person you're being authentic to as to whether is it a positive or negative? I think it's always a positive because
That's
as
what I
long
was
as you're being authentic, it's always going to be positive. You can't gauge it by just how someone else responds. See,
Yeah.
that
You're
they
right.
don't have the capacity or shouldn't have to make it a negative experience. All you have to do is be authentic. That's it. Positive. Okay. It's a different way of looking at it. So where if you take on that negative connotation, that's on you.
Good point.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was going to mention that too. But I'm glad I didn't say it before you did, Glenn. I'm hanging out with you too much. I start thinking like you, which actually isn't a bad thing. But yeah, if you're being authentic 100% of the time and somebody rejects you, I think it is, yeah, perspective. If you can embrace and celebrate and delight in the fact that you're being authentic, whether people come or go, it's always going to be a positive because you're being true to you, and that's always an awesome thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a fact of life that not everybody's on our wavelength, and people are going to reject you because a lot of times because they can't understand you. They've got no idea who you are, what you're about. It's just you live in different universes. It's just natural. It's life.
Yeah.
So, as Cripps said, no negatives for laying it out. Just I always look at it as you know from I don't need to. Why am I going to waste my energy doing that other stuff? Just put it out there. If it's accepted, great. If it's not, well, that's great too.
Yeah. I agree.
I
Good.
think the times it could be a negative is if you chase after that person that's not accepting you, or you stay in a relationship where the person isn't accepting you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I agree
Yeah.
totally. But that usually comes from some kind of codependence or some
Yeah.
kind of, as you were saying, some kind of feeling. Oh, I just don't like the. I can't cope with being rejected, so therefore I better chase out and get more info. What a waste of energy. What's more information going to tell you that you don't know already? You already know you've been rejected. Accept it. Let it go and move on to someone who's not going. Is going to be different with you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good point.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, next part. The deceptive thing about dating is most people put their best foot forward, and you usually do not find out the person's true face, the things they struggle with until later in the relationship. If a person shows their best traits in the beginning and hides their more challenging parts or flaws, it comes out eventually. And when it does, what does a person do with that? Uh, what do you think, Jen? What does a person do with that? So, again, I'm making the point in this write up that in dating, a lot of times the person, both people on that first date, are on their best behavior. Now, there are exceptions to this. There are people that act themselves and they're total jerk. And usually, if they do that, there are going to be some people that find that attractive because, believe it or not, there are some women out there that are attracted to jerky dudes.
Mm-hmm.
They call it bad boy syndrome. I don't think it's a healthy thing. I think that there's something wrong with the woman too, that they're attracted to quote unquote bad boys. And then they all complain. I have had these conversations with these women. Then they complain, I'm just attracted to bad boys. And then, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months down the road, they're complaining about the same person they were attracted to and got in a relationship with to begin with.
Oh no.
Well, he cheats on me. Oh, he does well, yeah, you chose a bad boy. What do you think's going to happen? What do you think the result of that is going to be? So, if the person shows their best traits in the beginning, which oftentimes in dating that is the way that it is, you're on your best behavior generally. You're nice to the waiter or the waitress. You pick up the check. You open doors on the guy's point, and the girl. Maybe you lean forward and you're interested in everything the other person has to say. You do all the right things, and maybe that's not who you are. That's your best foot forward. So, what does a person do with that when the more challenging parts come out, Jen, and the flaws? What do they do?
Now, I know I wrote this, but I just wanted to ask you, is this coming from the person who is uncovering their own flaws or the person that's with someone who is doing that?
I think it's asking from the perspective of, okay, like let's say that I put my best foot forward with you, and then you see my flaws later. What do you do? What do you do with that?
Huh.
I mean, do you feel like you've been lied to, or is this just the way that it is, that going into it that it's going to be their best foot forward, and that there are flaws that aren't being shared at the beginning and they'll come out later?
Yeah, I didn't come from that perspective. I assumed other people put their all the cards on the table. Um Gosh, I know I wrote the question, or maybe you did.
No, you did.
Okay. Like,
Oh, I
I don't know
think
how to
if a
answer.
person, okay, so I think it's asking. So what do you do after the fact if a person puts their best foot forward, and then let's say that you get engaged, you get married, and because oftentimes it's the way it happens. You get married and actually live with a person, and then you don't like the way they put the cap or don't put the cap, or squeeze the toothpaste from the middle, or they put the toilet paper the wrong way. These are
That's
little
yeah.
things. Now, I would say that it's not the little things. They're
Yeah.
being more
It's not.
irritated by something deeper. I
Yeah.
would say that.
You know what? I just thought of something and
Okay,
a way to answer. So
good.
you and I have talked about this topic parallel to this particular topic that the write-up's about. But how when and I guess this could be in relationships, not just marriages, but how it seems that a lot of couples are always trying to get back to the person that they first started dating
Yes.
or that they had first married.
Oh, beautiful.
And what makes me think about this is, okay, if you have two people that are putting their best foot forward, and then years down the road they're like, who the heck am I with? And both of them are trying to get back to the beginning.
Yeah.
That's probably why.
Yeah.
In a sense, because the people that they're wanting to get back to aren't necessarily real. It's a
Right.
maybe a part of who they are,
Sure.
but it's not all of who they are.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, that's my
It's
answer. I just
it's a false self.
yeah.
That person, that best foot forward, like you said, yes, there may be some qualities that are a part of that person's life or their personal profile.
Yeah.
But if you're just showing the best things at the beginning, it is not an accurate depiction of who the person is. So you know that whatever flaws there are, whatever personality traits that person has, they are going to come out eventually. You cannot hide those things for very long. The world has a way of challenging you just by the nature of it being the world. Jobs, being sick and not going into work, and maybe the other person doesn't know how to take care of you when you're sick and thinks you ought to just go in anyway, and you don't want to. It's never,
All kinds of stuff.
all kinds of stuff. This stuff comes out eventually. So if you're not honest from the beginning, I told Jen, I think that first date should be, okay, I've even imagined this before I met Jen. I thought about if I ever decided to date again, I would say to the person, I would say, okay, this is our first date. Rather than me trying to impress you with all the good parts, I think I want each one of us to tell the other 3 things about themselves that you think might not result in a second date. I mean, the worst possible things that you could imagine someone not finding attractive on a first date. I think that would be refreshing, and I think that would weed out the people that are wanting some kind of surfacey.
Oh yeah, it might scare some people away.
Right, it might scare some people,
Check,
but
please.
the right person, I think, would get into that, and they would say, "Oh yeah, well, I did this and I did that and did this," but it would be a determination, if the person is able to be open and honest about who they are as a person, including their flaws.
Yeah.
And it could give you the opportunity to find out if that's the right person for you.
Yeah.
Right from the get-go. What do you think, Glenn?
I think if you come with a willingness to communicate, the best foot forward in inverted commas doesn't apply, because you just get on a particular level. You ask questions that are relevant, and you give answers. So I think if with the correct questions, you don't really get an opportunity to use your best foot unless you're an outright liar, and you're always going to be found out about that anyway. So
Yeah.
So I'm more inclined to think that for myself, there's no best foot. It's just a foot. Yeah. It's once again, look, I know the answer is so boring. I don't care. Just bring it out, put it out. No, there's no best foot forward. Like if someone's focused on money, your best foot forward would be to say, you wouldn't say, I'm on Social Security, but another person might say, well, I love traveling in the jungles of Africa and helping sick kids. Well, you're not going to say, I don't like kids. Hey,
Right.
So the best foot is really it's just an expression which has to mean no meaning, because your best foot is different from mine, so why bother with it?
That's a really good point.
I would say I don't like Africa.
Well, see, that's
how do you know?
point.
You've never been.
That's the point, exactly. I remember when I think I've said it before, I went on a date, an online date with a lady, and she was talking about money the whole night. So I thought, well, I'm going to cut this real short. So I said, I'm on unemployment benefits. Oh boy, was she out of there fast? I've never seen anyone move so fast. But
wait, were you lying, or?
I was dead serious.
Oh,
I just thought, let's just bring the conversation forward, because the person's talking about money. So let's give her some truth and see where you're at.
Yeah, that's the point.
Then I got home early. It was really good. I didn't waste my time.
Yeah.
She did not waste her time. So therefore, it's a win-win.
I love it. That's super refreshing to me.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
It saves a lot of trouble in the future. Anyone else want to say anything about this one before we move forward?
There was something I was gonna say. What'd you do with that? No, I can't remember it. Okay, move on.
That's okay. So Stephanie says, even a good person can change and become someone else, a total stranger, even after years of being with them. Um,
Mm.
I see why you say that. I don't agree, though. A good person, I guess it depends on your definition of a good person, but a person that is growing and changing, hopefully they're not the same person. They're still good, but hopefully they do change and become someone else. But it should be a journey that you take with them because both of you are doing it. So I'm not saying you're wrong, Stephanie, as a person. I'm just saying that perspective, I think that perspective is based on the kind of people that you've been subjected to. Those are people that might have come across as a good person at the beginning, but then you see their true colors, because they, again, a lot of people pretend. This whole best foot forward. But the way to avoid that is by you being authentic, and you're going to attract authentic people. I really do believe that's the way it works. It's true about Jen and myself. It's true about Glenn and Sandra. They were both authentic people, in my opinion, and they attracted, that part was attractive to one another. In what Glenn was saying, if he had talked, if the person had talked about money, and then Glenn said, "Well, I'm on Social Security," and then maybe she made a mistake. Maybe after him sharing that, it says, "You know what? I've been talking about money." That's a possibility that a person is nervous and they talk about things, but that's not who they really are. But by Glenn being authentic and picking up on that and saying what he said, that brings it right to the top right away. So that's Glenn being authentic, even if the other person isn't. So your results are going to be different, Stephanie, in my opinion, moving forward, because you are the one that's being authentic. So anyone you decide when you're ready, and I'm not saying it might take you a long time before you're ready to date again. But when you're ready to date, it's going to be different, I believe, because you're going to be authentic. You're a different person. But anyway, my point is, a good person should change, but they shouldn't become a total stranger if you're growing and changing with them. That's what I want to say. Jen, do you have a comment on that before we move on?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Okay. The next part, does it depend on if it's intentional? So, in other words, uh, does it matter if it's intentional, if the person is putting their best foot forward, or is it just societal? Does it make a difference whether it's intentional or not, Jen?
Hmm. Okay, well, I'll share.
Sure.
So I think in past relationships I put my best foot forward in some of them, because of my low self-worth. I didn't feel worthy of being accepted. I didn't accept myself, and I've shared on the show, issues with being a chameleon and trying to morph myself into who I thought the person that I liked wanted me to be. So that definitely was not being authentic. It was me. Some of it was censoring, some of it was saying I liked things that I didn't actually like,
Right.
that kind of stuff.
Right.
Um, so I think that I was in the wrong doing that. I mean, I understand the reasons behind it and the fact that it wasn't coming from a place of malice or wanting to dupe somebody, on purpose.
Right.
Um, it was coming out of an insecure place, but I
Uh-huh.
still think it was wrong.
Right.
For them and also for myself, you
Yeah.
know. So the question, what was the last part of that? I can't find it.
Uh,
The
does
bait
it
and bait.
depend on whether it's intentional or maybe it's a bait and switch? Either way.
Yeah, I think in a way it's a bait and switch either way. I think one's a little worse than the other.
Yeah.
But it's still a bait and switch because I even know for me in my last marriage, I got really tired of morphing myself into this person that my husband wanted me to be, but also that I was trying to be to try to
Right.
keep him from getting angry. And
Mhm.
it's exhausting. It's exhausting. It was making me physically sick.
Mhm.
And I just couldn't do it anymore.
Mhm.
Um, but the unfortunate thing is that it really made the shit hit the fan
Mhm.
because he got used to me dancing on his strings, you
Yeah.
know. Um, and being his fixer and being his emotional dumping ground. So many things that were toxic, but it was, I think it just was, I don't even know what the word is. It was a disservice to myself.
Yeah,
Um, and I'm guessing it probably was a disservice to him as well.
sure.
No, well, no, I think it serviced him quite well. Never mind, I take that back.
Oh, okay. That's
Just my
your
answer.
prerogative. You get to take
Yeah.
something back. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with what you said, Jen. Doesn't matter. It's the same result either way. It's a bait and switch. If you're not coming out from the beginning being authentic from the get go. But I understand your perspective. You know, I've been there. Like I said, sending a picture from the past rather than the present. It's being embarrassed about the way I look and having a hang up about it and low self esteem. But that person found me out because unbeknownst to me or unnoticed by me, I'm usually pay attention to detail. But in this particular picture that I shared, it had the date at the bottom right hand corner because it was taken with a regular camera and it had the date on it. So I put a profile, sent it to this person that I was trying to get to know. And she said, oh, by the way, that picture's like 10 years old. Like, what's up with that? So it did not end well. You know, I started out with not a lie necessarily, but a deception because that wasn't who I am at the time. It wasn't what I looked like at the time. So I was exposed in that way.
Yeah.
So that was on my part intentional, regardless of whether it was because I had low self-esteem or not. It still was intentional. But even if it had been unintentional, like maybe that's the only picture I had and I shared it. I wasn't trying to be deceptive, but she wanted a picture. Here's basically what I look like, but it's still the end result.
Yeah.
I think so. The intentionality doesn't matter as much in this case. Where in other cases, I think your intentions do make a huge difference in the outcome.
Yeah.
What do you think, Glenn? Does it matter if it's intentional or unintentional?
Interesting question. Just trying to get that into my head.
Yeah, take your time.
No. Can you ask a question in perspective, in context of that, please?
Sure. Oh, go ahead, Jen.
No, I just was swallowing.
Oh, I thought you were like taking an intake of breath as if
Sorry.
you had a burning desire to reframe the question for Glenn.
I think you'll do a better job.
Depend on, okay, so if the person sets out to put their best foot forward and be deceptive, they're intentional about doing that. Is that different than if a person shares things from their perspective of who they are, but it ends up being incorrect or not fully accurate?
I think most people, if you've got a sense of awareness, you're going to pick up pretty fast that they're full of crap.
Right.
So I think and you're not going to at that point say, what was their motive? What was their motivation? Was it intentional or not? I don't think you really care. I think you basically say, well, they did it.
Yeah.
That's it. End of story.
Yeah.
Don't like it, out of here.
I agree. Okay. So I think we're all on the same page there. So if you fall in love with your best foot forward representation of someone, what happens when the other parts of the person appear? I think we've kind of already answered this question, so I'm going to move on if that's okay with everybody.
Yeah.
I think we've already kind of addressed that. Okay, so the next part, it can challenge the original perception of the person, the relationship as a whole. This is a societal issue. A dog and pony show, put out what looks good, what's shiny and attractive, and hide the rest. What's underneath that? All that, Jen? What's underneath the societal idea of putting the best parts forward, what's shiny and attractive, and not sharing the challenges and flaws that a person has?
I believe it's insecurity and fear of abandonment or rejection.
Good.
Yeah, that's my answer.
Okay. I'll follow up on that and say I completely agree. Both points. I had this fear of abandonment part. And I've talked about this before, but I'll just mention it briefly again. It prevented me from dating, pretty much altogether. I was
Yeah.
so deathly afraid of being abandoned, and I expected it because of the way I was brought up. I think my parents abandoned me all the time. I mean, they didn't leave me at a rest area and drive away. That actually happened to my cousin, though. They had four boys, and they stopped at a rest area, and one of the kids got left, and they drove on about 2 hours down the other road, and he'd been asleep in the bed and stuff, and he got up and saw that they were stopped, and everybody was in the rest area going to the bathroom and whatnot. So he got up and went in, and they passed each other, I guess, somehow. They got in the car thinking he was still asleep in the bed and drove off. I mean, perfectly innocent thing. But how does the person feel who gets abandoned at the rest stop? It's like your family drives off for 2 hours, and then you're sitting there in a state that you're not from, halfway between Michigan and Florida, and your family's gone. I mean, and you're like 12 years old. What do you do with that? But that's the fear, though. That's just an example of the fear that people have of being abandoned in a relationship. Um, so yeah, completely agree with that. The other thing, did you say self-esteem or insecurity?
Yeah. Self-esteem or
Yeah.
low
So
self-esteem.
I believe we all have a little bit of insecurity in us. Now, I think, as Glenn said, as we get older and more mature, that seems to matter less. Um, we tend to accept who we are as a person, move forward in our lives, and it becomes easier. So if a person doesn't like you for who you are or whatever, um, then that's on them. But in the case of the abandonment, it's just ironic that the very thing that I was afraid of, I finally got into my first marriage, and I went through the very abandonment that was my greatest fear.
Yeah.
Went through it, experienced it, dealt with it, and then it made me a stronger person. It made me less fearful rather than more fearful. When I actually went through it, I thought, oh, this was horrible, but I'm still alive. I survived it, and I learned more about myself in the process. And it was really boiled down to a poor choice on my part with the other person. That's what it came down to. I say that because I feel like the right person is not going to abandon you in a
Yeah.
relationship. If they have to leave for some reason, they're going to do it with respect and dignity, especially a healthy person. They're not going to just leave. But today, apparently, you break up with text messages now.
Yeah.
You just tell you, or you ghost the person. That's another term, and I'm sure the young people that listen to the show are Celine's in there. I know Liam's in his early 20s, but maybe this is not a thing for you, Liam. But the ghosting thing, I think it's so stupid. Like, you're in a relationship with someone, and you're friends or whatever, and you send text messages, and then for whatever reason you decide you don't want to deal with that person anymore, so you just don't answer their text anymore.
Yeah.
No conversation, no, look, I don't think this is working out, none of that. You just ghost them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in some ways it can be temporary, but still, even if it's temporary, I would go with the idea of, if you don't want to hang out with the person for a period of time, just tell them.
Yeah. Like I
It's
need a
not you,
break.
it's me. I need a break from you. Love you.
Yeah.
We'll hang out again, but for a while, I'm going to do this over here. I'm going to do a little something else. I'll message you when I'm ready.
Yeah. Because the ghosting, I've had this happen to me a few times.
Yes, you
By
have.
friends, and it's very frustrating because for me,
Yeah.
this one friend that's done it multiple times, like 5 different times, and I finally was like, okay, we're done.
Yep.
um she has some health issues, and I was really, really concerned for her health. I was like, is she alive? Like, even when she's had a track history of doing this, not just with me, but my family. Like, she lives in the same neighborhood as my family does, and she just disappears. And I know this happens with friendships sometimes where you just lose touch. This isn't that. This is like talking almost every day for a long time, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden they disappear, and you're texting them and being like, hey, are you all right? like, I'm praying for you. I'm a little worried. No response.
Yeah.
And there's been times where I've had some friends that you can see where it says read, like the message. You can tell, you can see that they've read your message and that you're concerned, and there's still no response. It's like, you know what?
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
You don't even
Absolutely.
have the decency to like put my mind at ease at least and just tell
Right.
me that you're okay.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's not fun.
It's
But
it.
again, this is another way that people tell you who they really are by how they
Yeah.
treat you.
That's what it
Um,
comes down to.
you got to listen.
Yeah. And before we move forward, usually we say hello to new people that come in. So hello to Gia. Gia was with us on Tuesday, and she brought her lovely sister with her
Yeah.
to our Tuesday night meetup. And so we're grateful to see you, Gia. And as usual, I saw you apologizing for being late. No problem. You can join anytime. We're glad that you are here. And I saw that you were in an eBay uh, battle,
Oh,
and you won. So congratulations on
what
that.
did he win?
I don't know, Gia, if you care to share what you won from
Oh, it's Gia.
eBay in the battle there.
Was
Feel
it a butterfly bracelet? Sterling Stone.
So share that, Gia. Also, Annette came in quite a while ago, but I didn't say hello to her. And then a couple of people have come and gone. Nick was here for a little bit, and then he had to leave. And we did say hello to Janet, but she had to take off too, which we completely understand. But I want to say hello to Lon, Fisherman in a Box, and I've talked about his channel before, so I'm just going to take a brief second. Um, do yourself a favor and go over and listen to Fisherman in a Box channel. I don't know if you can still do this, but you used to be able to click on the person in the chat and it would connect you to their channel. But it's really easy to look up. There's no one like him on YouTube. So type in Fisherman in the Box in the search bar. And he comes on usually Saturday and Sunday, and a couple days sometimes during the week. But I listen to I'm almost caught up. I've listened to about all the broadcasts from the time he started the channel, I think. And it's really I start my day with that before I go to work. Sometimes I catch the tail end of it. Other times I'm just listening to the playback. But it's really it's fun. It's informative. Right now, he's dealing with the things that are going on in his home state now, Minnesota. And I'm sure everyone's aware of the trial that's going on and the looting and all that stuff. I mean, it's national news. So there's some talk about that. There's plenty of talking about the body of Christ and being a strong man or strong woman in the world. So if you're a believer, certainly there's reasons to listen to that. And if you're not a believer, it's still, I believe, entertaining, and it's just really a good broadcast. So please,
Lon's hilarious.
he is hilarious. He
I
is.
like when he does his voices and
I like
sings.
Margaret.
Did you see his comment? Stop it. I like it. LOL. So honest.
World's worst audio engineer ever.
You do a decent Lon.
Shut up, Debbie. Play the show.
Oh no. I could see Glenn doing it.
Oh, I love it. I love Margaret. Absolutely. I would like to meet Margaret. The way he talks about her in every show, it just seems like she would be although she's the worst audio engineer ever, it seems like she's a delightful person. It's hilarious, the voices he does on there. I also like the last thing I'll say about him, go on and on, but I like the way he starts. The show's got usually a couple of videos or something, the intro music, and then he always is laughing when he, like when he starts. I just think that's a great way to start
It's awesome.
the broadcast.
Whoops.
And I don't want to jump the gun here, but I did reach out to Lon and ask him if he would be interested in doing a little something on his show and having Jen and myself on there, because that's how we met. We met supposedly purely by accident. A mutual friend had wanted to start a YouTube channel, and they invited a couple people. I'm not even in contact with this person anymore that brought us all together originally. And Lon was one of the people that got invited to this thing, and we ended up at
They were having technical difficulties
having
and
technical difficulties, and it wasn't working out and all that. So we ended up, I think it was like 3 hours. Lon,
yeah, it was long.
Jen, and myself, and a couple other people. Shade was one of them, and I'm still in touch with him occasionally. But out of all of them, Lon is the one that I talk to from time to time and listen to his wonderful broadcast. So thank you for indulging me on that, guys. Fisherman in a Box. Definitely go and check them out when you get a chance. Okay, that's enough of that. Okay, so getting back to where we are, what's underneath all that? Jen answered. I answered. So Glenn, what's underneath all that? And that, if you need a reminder, after I went on and on about something else, the societal issue Dog and Pony Show put out what looks good, what's shiny and attractive, and hide the rest. Why do people feel like they need to do that?
Well, I think they've been conditioned by social media, dating apps, sites, etc. Because the big players that they've tried, that love is promoted as a competition. You have to be better. You have to be better than the next guy to win the fair lady.
Ooh.
So therefore, you are encouraged to actually be better than someone else, not who you are, but be better,
Right.
be more attractive to that person. And how do you do that? Well, you're going to start telling all the good things about yourself and try to be better than the other guy, or lady, whatever. So another waste of space.
Yep, and energy.
Yeah, that's what I think is happening. It's conditioning as well.
Okay.
So you've got to break. If you break through that, as you know, and it's going to come up. I mean, if you are a lady and you write on there that you've got big boobs in a sports car, you're going to get hundreds of replies.
Yeah.
If you write that you're an intellectual woman, 4'2" tall with big feet, well, you might get one or two.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's how it works.
Okay. Yeah, and then we'll go to you for the next question. Where is getting to know the real person?
Where is that?
Where's that gone? Where is getting to know the real person now? What's happened to that?
Good question. Let me just flick this image over. Where is getting to know the real person? Well, ask them the questions. What you need to know? Ask them. Simple. What's the problem with that? Ask where is getting to know. Well, you've got to get to know the real person. Ask them. Ask them about themselves. Isn't that obvious?
Yeah, the question's more of like, why aren't people doing that more? Like, where is it gone? Where is being authentic and asking the questions? Where is that gone? Because it seems to not be very popular.
Right.
Or if it is being answered, the best foot forward's being produced.
Once again, it's competition. You're conditioned. You're conditioned not to really know the person initially. The conditioning is to make an impression.
Right.
Yeah. And like you were saying, Glenn, with it being a competition, can you imagine how many people through society have experienced rejection over and over? So that, to my mind, would be another reason why someone wouldn't be authentic and bring their true self, all of themselves, to the table because of just being rejected.
But what do you think you're going to get if you're not bringing your true self to the table? You're only going to get something.
I don't think people.
You're going to get something false, aren't you?
Yeah, and I don't think people realize it. I don't think they think about that. I think they think that they're going to be happy with what they get through putting out this false persona or half persona. I don't think they think it through. I know I didn't. I didn't think about the intricacies of all this until I met you and started talking to you, Glenn. I was like, holy crap. Well, duh. And it seems like such a duh moment. It's like,
yeah.
But
well, it's hard to see it.
I really hadn't thought of it.
It's hard to see it when you're in the middle of it already. If you don't know anything about this, you haven't been taught. You haven't been taught. You've been indoctrinated or trained, like Glenn's saying, programmed, whatever word you want to use for it. it's difficult to see the true nature of the relationship that you're in when you're in the middle of it, where other people from the outside can see it clearly. And that's what happened with you, Jen. And it's like boiling a frog. You put the frog in room temperature water and you boil it up, and it rises gradually. The heat in the bucket rises gradually, and by the time the frog realizes what's going on, he's already
It's
boiled.
cooked. Yeah.
He's cooked.
But that's actually, I was talking more along the lines of when you're approaching relationships, not when you're in them.
I know.
Like,
I was making a separate point
oh, okay, gotcha.
based
Okay.
on your point. I mean, they're
Oh, okay.
related, but it's not exactly that.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
It's not
Okay.
exactly the same thing. Okay,
Hey,
so
Chris, just one
yeah,
thing. I just wanted to say I would be very doubtful that anybody could come to the first relationship that they're going to engage in and have all these great thoughts and ideas and feeling that, oh yeah, I'll be authentic and it's all good. And I think it takes, well, I know for myself, it took a lot of experience just
Yeah.
chipping away at all this. This is not something that happens overnight. This is years and years of practice to get to that point. So yeah, if just to the people out there that are feeling discouraged, don't be, because it isn't overnight. It is
Yeah.
just, it's practicing. It's transitional relationships whereby you use the situation authentically, but be aware of what the feedback is to you, how you're behaving. Do the analysis. Put yourself on the line, and each time you go to a new relationship, use it. Use the previous ones to learn from, and use this one to learn as well. And eventually, hopefully,
Yeah.
you come to the place where you want to be. That's what
That's
happened
good.
to me. Yeah.
Glenn, would you say that it took some falling down
Oh,
to
crikey.
gather that information too?
Did it? Oh, yeah. It's like
laughs.
it's like digging a hole to the center of the bloody earth and jumping in it and having to crawl out. Oh no! You got it. Oh no! I can say I've made all the mistakes you can make, but I do think now, in retrospect, I'm really pleased I stuffed it right up. Because if I didn't, I'd have no idea what I was doing wrong.
Right.
But you've just got to go through the process.
Yeah.
Like Celine says here, it's like it's not the end of the earth at 21 if you haven't found the love of your life.
Right.
What's more important is that you just continue to be authentic, and if the love of your life is meant to appear, he will.
Right.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so the only thing I'll say, whereas getting to know the real person, I think that it's not as important anymore to know the real person. It's social, it's appearances, and you see this often. Jen and I listened to another broadcast, True Crime, that chapter, and it's very interesting. But he deals with true crime things where in a relationship, oftentimes it's the person in the relationship, and it's dark material, but the guy seems to, the way he presents it, it makes it easier to bear. He's got kind of a sense of humor and things like that. So, but you hear all these stories about people and families. They have an affair, they want to get out of it. So rather than just leaving the other person, they decide to kill them. This is not meeting the real person. This is people that get married. Maybe they both have decent jobs, and on paper it looks like it's going to work out, but really they don't have anything in common. And the way a normal person deals with that is to get a divorce or whatever. But there's so many stories. The guy wouldn't have a channel if there wasn't this out there. The idea of not being a real person and not sharing the things that you struggle with, and being a sociopath. Who's going to share that? If a sociopath is not going to say on the first date, oh, by the way, I'm a sociopath, we're going to get married and have some kids, and eventually I'm going to kill you because I'm having an affair and I'm going through a midlife crisis. That's not going to happen. So there that is. Can you expose all that can you expose all that you are in modern dating? Can you expose all that you are in modern dating? Uh, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, I think you can. It's again, it's about you being authentic, and rather than just putting your best foot forward, it's like I like what Glenn said about the money thing. It's disclosing, like talking to the person, asking good questions, and maybe you determine it's a good person for you, maybe not, whatever. But you can expose all that about yourself in modern dating. I would say that you would have to do it differently than what the popular brand of dating seems to be nowadays. I think if you were trying to date like they used to date in the past, I think people would laugh at you. Like there's rules about like when to text someone. It used to be like how long do you wait to call a person after the first date? Well,
Yeah.
the answer to that is 3 days, ladies and gentlemen. 3 days. You're supposed to wait
3 days.
3 days.
Watch
I thought
Seinfeld.
I thought that was always ridiculous. It to me, if I enjoyed a date with someone, I'd want to call them that night and say, oh well, that's you're too needy. You're
Clingy.
yeah, you're clingy. No,
Trying
if
too
I
hard.
it maybe, but to me, if I enjoyed the night, what's wrong with calling someone and saying, "Hey, enjoyed the night. I would love to do that again." If you didn't say that
Yeah,
in person.
exactly.
So, real quick on this one, can you expose all that in modern dating? On my in my book, yes, you can. What do you think, Jen? Can you expose all that in modern dating?
Yeah. Um, I think it's going to be a lot harder in this day and age just because of the competition that's been mentioned.
Mhm,
Um, but yeah, it's completely possible.
mhm.
It's just, I guess you have to ask yourself the hard question and um, decide that you're not going to take it as a rejection or abandonment if somebody walks away, but that, like, I forget how Glenn had put it so beautifully, but just like, good, it's a positive. All right, they're not a good fit with me, and why would I want to be with someone that's not a good fit for me? So move along next.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's possible.
Okay. Thanks, Jen. What about you, Glenn? Can you expose all that in modern dating? What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. All you need to be is a good listener and a good responder.
Hmm.
But I think that's a skill. I think it takes you have to have your awareness hat on, and you actually have to be engaged with the person that you are communicating with. I
Yeah.
mean, if you do this at a superficial level, you're not going to expose anything, and once again, you're probably going to waste your time.
Yeah.
So, which might be
Okay.
fun. Might be fun to
Yeah.
go along for the ride. But what I'm seeing is, if people have got that thought that they're looking for a partner rather than a Tinder night out, well, it's a different mentality, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks.
Okay. Follow-up question to that one for you, Glenn. What are the ways someone can put both feet forward in today's dating world? So you've talked a little bit about, being authentic right from the get-go and asking good questions and things like that. You just mentioned being a good listener. So what are some other ways that a person can be authentic in today's dating world?
Wow, well, that's all encompassed in what we've been saying. Just
Yeah.
here I am. Here's my 2 feet left front. Here I am. This is me. What do you think? You like it? Yes or no? Yada yada yada. Okay. You don't. Bye bye. Oh, I'm interested. Or I would say, well, this is a long time ago for me. I haven't done this for 20 years, so I only have a date every day with my wife.
Right.
So, but I would say I always looked at. I was also upfront by putting both feet forward means if you like the person, you say, "Gee, I like you. I'd like to take this further." I mean, there's no point holding back either. There's a point where you've got to declare yourself. So that's also part of the equation as I see it. So yeah, just be honest. Put
Okay.
yourself out there. Say and tell people the truth. If someone says to you, "Well, do you think we should meet up again?" Be honest. If you feel it's not right, say so politely. But if you do think it's right, also say so politely.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. What do you think, Jen? What are ways someone can put both feet forward in today's dating world?
I think be brave and do it for you.
Yeah.
Um, very short answer, but I mean, I guess you could do it for the other people too, but I think a better, especially if you're codependent or people pleaser, it's
Yeah.
better to focus on doing it for you and knowing that you're not going to waste their time either.
Right.
Because the sooner you put all the cards on the table, the sooner the two of you can decide if you're a good fit, if
Yeah.
you're right for each other, if you're compatible even. And if you're picking and choosing what you put out, there's the potential that it's not going to end up good,
Hmm.
and it's not
Okay.
honest.
Right.
It's good to be
Thank you.
honest.
Yeah. From my perspective, it'll be a short answer too, because Glenn's answer and Jen's answer is pretty good, and we've kind of addressed this. Moving up to this, and then we'll move on. We're just a couple more things to go through. We'll be done. What are the ways someone can put both feet forward in today's dating world? I like the idea of being open and upfront right from the get go. Um, Asking good questions. I like that Glenn shared that. Being a good listener, um, being who you are, not trying to pretend to be someone else. And as Jen said, yeah, I do think it's difficult because of what Glenn was talking about, um, of it being a competition. But to me, you're not in any competition with anyone. You know, it either someone likes you or they don't. They don't have to like you, but you don't have to be someone that you're not. So as Jen said, it might be difficult in today's dating world, but you don't have to fall prey to what the quote unquote dating world is or the expectations of the way things are done now. You can be who you are in any situation. Be authentic. Be who you are, and that's the best way, in my opinion. Both feet forward, right from the get go, which is what we're talking about. Um, an online dating profile can take a lot of time to write up descriptions about yourself, but it often's mostly good stuff. It could be 100% deceptive. Profile is only a few pieces of how a person sees themselves. It displays what kind of music they like, what they like to do on dates, their ideal person or the person they're looking for, food choices, and whether they like or dislike long walks on the beach. Is it an accurate depiction of who you are truly? If that is who you're getting to know, is that even the real person? I'm going to skip this one. I think we've kind of answered this.
Yeah.
We'll go down to the bottom. Uh, and what about those who shift who they truly are to fit what they think others would like and be attracted to? Uh, to
We talked
me,
about that a little bit.
yeah,
Yeah.
we did. Uh, why would someone? Okay, we talked about that. Now gone are the bundle boards, bundle boards, the bundle bags, and the chaperones. Now we have Tinder and other apps where you can meet up with a stranger and do what consenting adults want to do. However, is that helpful? Are these long lasting ways to develop a relationship, or do people have an interest in that anymore? What do you think, Jen? This is a question we have to really address.
I don't think a lot of people have that interest anymore of
No,
getting close.
no,
Um, at least from my perspective, what I've seen.
right.
I mean, perfect example. Um, we have 14 people on the show and chat, and not again. I'm not saying this because we want a big channel or anything. That's not what I'm saying. I feel like this is a good representation of people that want to go deep.
Yeah,
And you kind of have to be a person that wants to go deep if you're going to be part of a relationship where both people are coming to the table
yeah,
and being authentic and real and laying it all out there.
yep.
Um,
Oh,
so I do think there's some issues with shallowness in society, and that it's even celebrated and pushed and encouraged,
yeah,
because you don't see in society or even the media or anything of people even encouraging people or educating people on how to be deep and authentic and be your true self. Every once in a while there'll be a music artist that'll come out with a really catchy song about being yourself and screw everybody that doesn't accept you.
yeah,
That's like as far as it goes, it seems.
yep.
Um, So that's my answer.
Yeah, it's a soundbite is all it is. It's not
Yeah.
followed up in any meaningful way. What you just said, for example, there's 14 people in here. Same thing with Lon. He has a really, really great show. And I think he's in the 700 club here recently with the amount of subscribers. But um, he's happy when it goes into the double digits, and part of it's YouTube. They have a way of hiding channels and burying them. But if you're a gay makeup person and you're doing tutorials on how guys can put on makeup or transgender or something like that, then you have millions of viewers. And that's just the nature of the beast, literally and figuratively. That's the world we live in. Those things are what people subscribe to and sign up for, where the ability on this show, I believe we do go a little deeper. We try to address things that aren't necessarily surfacey stuff. And there's 14 people generally that come in that are interested, but they come every week if they can. And that's okay. We have a few people that listen and want to be a part of it. I would rather have 14 people rather than 14,000 people, and nobody engages, nobody really cares. They're just in there, subscribers or whatever. That's okay with me. But in answer to this, I don't think people are as interested, and it's just the morals and values of the society that we live in. Tinder is easier to just have a one night stand and meet someone. The expectations are lowered, in my opinion. It just isn't the same landscape anymore. And I don't think people are as interested in bringing truth to the table. It's just not as popular. Lon says, Fisherman in the Box, Lon says, two becoming one must, and must is in capitals, be centered on one thing. It allows for forgiveness, kindness, patience, and long suffering. And I believe he's talking about a relationship with Jesus Christ, a godly relationship, two becoming one, becoming married, centered on God at the top. And I've talked about this. We've talked about this briefly, but that's Jen and myself. I'm not saying you can't have a healthy relationship. I mean, Glenn and Sandra are an example of that. They are, in my opinion, spiritual people, but they're not quote unquote Christ centered. But they are still have a healthy relationship. They're still just as close as other people are because they're both authentic. They both bring themselves to the table, and that's who they are as people. So it can happen. But I agree with what Lon says. Not just saying you're a Christian, not just saying you're a believer, but actually putting these things to practice and putting God first. And then I'll just share this. Lon also says, and I agree with this, it's so important. Communication is key. Listen to listen, not listen to respond. And we've actually talked about that on the broadcast, Lon. It was a year ago, but we did a broadcast on what is listening. What is listening? What's the difference between hearing and listening? I mean, someone might hear you, but are they really listening to what you're saying? It is a lost art. A lot of people, just as Lon says, a lot of people are just waiting to respond. They're not really listening to what you're saying. They're waiting for you to take a breath or be done with what you're saying so they can respond, and they're thinking about their response. That's oftentimes the problem. So there you go with that. So my answer to this is people don't have as much interest anymore, unfortunately. It's gone by the wayside. It isn't helpful. And are these long-lasting ways to develop a relationship? No. I mean, if you just want a one-night stand, you want to go on Tinder, you're a consenting adult. Whether I agree with it or not is beside the point. You get what you pay for, so to speak. If you just want surface, you're going to get surface. But if you want to have a deep, long-lasting relationship, there are other things than Tinder to do it. So there you go. What do you think, Glenn? Is it helpful? The modern dating situation, are these long-lasting ways to develop a relationship, or do people have any interest in that anymore? What do you think?
I think a lot more people have an interest in this than we realise, but
Mm,
I don't think they know how to go about it.
Yeah.
I think that there's a general thought that there's nothing out there in internet land that's going to really what's the word I'm thinking of? Going to provide me with what I'm looking for, and that is because it's hype. I mean, I know for myself, if Tinder existed 25 years ago, 20 years ago, I wouldn't have been interested. I find it boring.
Yeah.
I think you just go and click on someone and say, well, let's hook up, have a one-nighter and be out of here. I mean,
Yeah.
that's got to be the most boring thing in the universe, from my point of view.
I would agree.
So, but I think people do also say, I'll never do online dating because it doesn't work, or it's all convoluted, but I think it has its place. I think it is a way that you can find a long lasting relationship. I've done it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I've had great relationships from the internet, ones that are very, what's the word? Good, great, wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never really met people face to face from the internet that were anything other than wonderful.
Yeah.
And maybe that was me, or maybe I was just fortunate.
Yeah.
So I think people are looking, but they don't know how to go about it because they see that profiling is like almost done for you. You get a lot of places they want you to answer a list of questions that they attempt to profile you, but does a profile actually tell anyone who you are and what really makes you tick? I think no. I think you just, once again, it's to compare you with others.
Yeah.
Doesn't
yeah.
work. If you can go one-on-one, great. Do so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
You know, I was thinking these online dating apps would be a great way to practice your red flag finding.
Yeah.
Just get
Good
on there. It's
point.
like a game.
Mhm.
Like, who's a narcissist? Who's a
Yeah.
sociopath?
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yep. There you go. John 8:12. I think that is John. Ironic that he's using John 8:12, but he had a couple messages in there that's how I know who it is, because he retracts his messages, and I understand that, and you have every right to do that. But I thought he made a good comment that I was going to share, but they're gone now, so I can't really share it. So John,
Paraphrase?
I'm going to. John, I would ask you, I know you're going to retract your messages. I would just ask that you leave them on there long enough so that they can be shared with everyone. Basically, what he said was that if you're meeting a person that has no interest in humility, then run like a bat out of hell, you know.
Good point.
That's basically what he said, and I agree with that. If a person has no interest in qualities that you hold dear, then you should run regardless. And humility is important, biblically speaking, and in the world, just general humility. In other words, not being a person who thinks so highly of yourself that everyone else is below you and you're just going on and on. I think that's one of the most unattractive things in dating altogether. If a person is just talking about themselves the whole time, to me, that talk about red flags. That's a red flag right from the start. They don't have any interest in you, don't ask you any questions about yourself. It's all about them. That's not being humble. It's not showing humility. And to me, that's a hard pass, so to speak. All right. Last question, and then we'll say goodnight. What do people truly want down deep, Jen? What do they want down deep?
I think I think people want to be seen and heard. They want to see and hear somebody else and have connection.
Yeah,
I think it really comes down to connection, both ways,
sure.
you know.
Yeah. I would agree. I think that deep down, that's what people want. They want connection. We are made by God to have human connection. They've done experiments on people that are in situations where they're isolated, where there's no human contact, particularly in prisons. One of the reasons why putting someone in solitary is such a punishment, because regardless of who you are as a person, whether you're nice or not nice, or or you're a bad guy or a good guy. When you get put in isolation, you have no human contact. As humans, it doesn't take very long for that to affect you mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. It just
Good
doesn't.
point.
That's not an opinion on my part. This is something that they've tested. So we're made, regardless of who we are, we're made for human connection, human contact. So what people want, I like your answer, Jen. They want to be heard, they want to be seen, and I would add to that, they want connection. They want human contact, and they want conversation. Even a person who says, "Well, I'm not much of a conversationalist." Yeah, but you don't have to go on and on in a conversation to have human contact. It can be as simple as just being in the same room with someone and reading a book together.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much to have some human contact, and I think that's at the heart. That's what people truly want. Now, they may not be aware of that. They may think they want Tinder and the one night stand and all that, or surfacey stuff, and maybe at that time they do. I think Glenn made a good point early on that a lot of this has to do with age and level of maturity, where a person is in their life now as opposed to earlier in life. The things change. Your own expectations of what you want out of life change. So dating later in life and getting to know someone is completely different than it was in most cases when you're a youngster, when you have no life experience and you haven't been through the ringer, so to speak. Life has a way of either maturing you, or you stay the same and you just continue on in the same pattern your whole life. There are both types of people out there. There are people that are interested in growing and changing. There are people that aren't. Bottom line. What do you think? What do people truly want deep down, Glenn?
Respect, acknowledgement,
Yeah.
to be valued, love. Journey's Wake said we want connection. They want domination. Is he meaning women?
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never found that. I can't get that. Maybe he speaks from experience. That's not mine at all. They want equality is the word I would use, which I think is more than reasonable.
Yeah.
But I can't. So I think, yeah, respect, love, acknowledgement, all of those things. Jen would say validation. I probably wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Jeffrey Hunter, no, he was lousy. Yeah. He's on every Easter playing Jesus. He's probably in his death or his estate has probably made a fortune from reruns.
Yeah. He also played Ming the Merciless. No, that was someone else. One of the guys that played Jesus in one of the movies also played Ming the Merciless in the Flash movie. Probably nobody knows what I'm talking about. I'll just move on.
Nope.
I just thought it was interesting that he played Jesus Christ in one movie, and then he played like the worst villain in the universe in fiction, a fictional universe, obviously, because there's no universe. But yeah, fictional universe. LOL. Okay, that's it for us, guys. The last question is something for you guys to think about. What do you guys think? You guys have shared a lot in the chat tonight, and we appreciate that. But if you have any other questions you want to think about what we've discussed on tonight's broadcast and fill us in later, you can always put it in the comments in the description, which we're happy to do. And by the way, I try to get rid of them as quickly as possible, but we just keep getting these porn links on there. And you might ask, how do I know it's a porn link? Well, when they first appeared, I didn't know what it was, and I clicked on it, and it didn't openly open up to nudity right away. So I was grateful for that. But you could tell that they wanted you to click on another link to get to some nudity. So we try to delete those as quickly as possible. Sometimes they don't show up, but they do show up on Glenn's end. So I do try to get rid of them. If you see them, please just ignore them, and I will remove it. Glenn usually tells me when they appear on his end, and then I go look on my end, and I actually have to search for them. It does filter them, so they show up in some places, like in Australia. Apparently, they show up, but here in my area, they don't actually show up, but they have to be deleted. So just ignore those. So, but if you have comments you want to make, there's two ways you can do it. You can do it in the description, or you can send the email. We put it in earlier, truestorylive.crips@gmail.com. And I'll remind everyone, because some people came in late, about our meeting on Tuesday night at 8:30. If you're interested in being a part of that, just shoot me an email, or if you're on Facebook, shoot me a message on Messenger. If you know Jen and you're not friends with me, you can do it that way as well. Either way, just let us know of your interest, and we'll make sure you have a link to join us. We start promptly at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, and it's just just kind of chilling out, meet and greet. Thank you, Jen, for posting that in the chat.
Yeah.
So just shoot me an email and I will make sure. Or if you have other suggestions for topics that you want us to cover in the show, if you have constructive or non-constructive criticism, any criticism whatsoever, just any way that we can improve this little here broadcast. I don't know who has. I think Lon. I think he says on his broadcast, at least listen to broadcast podcast on YouTube. I don't know. I think you're in the 700 club with subscribers, and I think we're like 256 somewhere in there, 260. So I think I should be saying least viewed broadcast podcast on YouTube.
Nice.
I think I got you beat on that one, Lon. That's it for us, guys. So we'll talk to the people that show up on Tuesday, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. I think I've said that like 4 times now, so I think everybody knows what time it is. And I just appreciate you guys in the chat so much, and I hope everyone has a good week. And I'll say my goodbye at the end. Jen, any other comments you want to make about the topic tonight? First of all, before you make a comment, I really enjoyed the write-up, and we don't know exactly what we're going to be doing next week, but I'm sure it'll be good. And I appreciate you putting the time and effort into it, Jen. It's good to hear your perspective on this and to get everyone's comment. So thank you for doing that. But say any other comments you want to make about the topic or anything else, and then say goodbye to the peoples for me.
Okay, you're welcome again. I was going to say that I know we talked a lot about, people getting into a relationship and not putting their best foot forward, not putting both feet forward. And then there's some change down the road that makes you realize, oh my gosh, they're either this is the real person they are and they weren't being honest. Maybe they've changed for the worst, or maybe they're just being themselves. But I will just say it's good to remember that hopefully, as human beings, we are learning and growing every day. And it's great when you can be in a relationship where you can recognize that in each other, and it be exciting and grow together. And it not the focus still isn't on trying to get back to that person that you met in the beginning. It's being excited about the people that you are every day, because hopefully you're ever changing.
Ever changing, ever growing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So great to see everybody in the chat. Thank you so much, guys, for just participating. I mean, we could easily just be on here talking to ourselves,
Yeah.
but you guys so wonderfully participate and share your thoughts and ask questions. And we just really, really appreciate it. So thank you. Have a good night, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Jen. What about you, Glenn? Say goodbye to the people, sir, and any other comments you have about tonight's topic.
Yeah, good night. I think you guys have covered it more than adequately. So, yeah, I'll say good night to everyone and Gia. Good night.
Thanks, Glenn. Appreciate it. Before I say goodnight, I see Talking Doctrine or Matthias popped in. He was making a comment earlier, so hello and good night to you. And Jay Lynn also popped in, saying she'll have to go back and listen. No problem, Jay Lynn. Like we always say, it doesn't matter. We just like people to come in the chat and fellowship in there and have good conversation. But we understand that everybody can't make it. And Jay Lynn, we also I know that you watch Lon's channel. I hear you mentioned sometimes in there, and I've seen you in there a couple times. Unfortunately, I don't wake up early enough to hear the whole broadcast, but I am going to do that if I can ever pin Lon down on when he's going to actually start, like what time. I've messaged him about it, and he gives me a roundabout. Mostly it's this or that. But on Saturday and Sunday, usually I'm up pretty late on Friday, and so Saturday I get to sleep in a little bit. My schedule a little bit different, and during the week I have to, we do our devotions in the morning and stuff like that, and I do listen. Sometimes, like I said, I catch the tail end. So eventually I'm going to get there. I'm going to be there at the beginning and be there live to listen to the whole thing. I promise that's going to happen. Also, Journey's Wake. It's good to see you, buddy. I'm glad that you came in. Good night to you as well. Good night to everyone else. And Journey's Wake says peace to everyone. Yeah, peace is a commodity we can't afford to give up. And right now, we're living in kind of trying times. That's an understatement. Hopefully that if you can find a way to have peace in this broken, fallen world, and by all means, do whatever brings you that peace. For us, it's a relationship with Jesus, being a believer, not a. I don't like the word Christian because people misuse it, and it's not really an accurate description of what it is. But that's just my opinion. But you can have peace by having that relationship. But unfortunately, oftentimes, people that profess to be quote unquote Christians or believers, they don't seem to have any peace, and that's an ongoing question. And this is something that Glenn has seen from a non-believing perspective, seeing that this idea that a lot of people who say that they're believers, they don't seem to be very peaceful. They don't seem to like themselves very much. And so a lot of these topics are born out of that, of comments that people have made in this chat and other chats. And we're always going to be trying to get people to realize that even from a biblical perspective, there must have been something about you that was good enough for God to send His Son. To believe that, to really truly believe that should help you realize that you are worth something. And even if you don't believe that, you're still worth something. You still have value. You still can be part of this world and make a difference. You can make a difference, and there's peace in that. There's peace in doing the best you can to be as good of a person as you can be in this world, and reaching out to people, and not just being someone that wants surfacey things, but being a good listener, asking good questions, and helping people out whenever you can. These are all ways that you can be a better person, and I think peace comes from that. That's just my opinion. That's all I have to say about that. Again, hope everyone has a good week. We'll see some of you on, or if not see you, we'll hear you on Tuesday. Hope to hear everyone and see everyone in the chat next Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, good night and God bless. And thanks